Hello friends, today we're going to discuss about pseudotumor cerebri. In this video, we're going to discuss the definition of pseudotumor cerebri, the etiology, the clinical feature, investigation and treatment of pseudotumor cerebri. Now, what is pseudotumor cerebri? Pseudotumor cerebri is also known as benign intracranial hypertension. Well, pseudotumor cerebri is referred to a clinical condition in which patients have a raised intracranial tension but have a normal CSF component and normal CT scan result. Hence the name pseudotumor cerebri. That is, the sign and symptom of the patient is like that of a patient having a tumor in the brain, but there is actually no tumor, which is proved by the normal CT scan result. Now, what is the etiology of pseudotumor cerebri? Well, the children with the age of below 6 years usually have some specific etiology behind the pseudotumor cerebri, but the children above 11 years of age generally do not have any specific cause, and most of the cases they are idiopathic. There are several reasons behind pseudotumor cerebri that has been postulated. Some of the reasons are drug, infection, metabolic, hematological, vascular and traumatic. In drug, the nalidixic acid, steroid, tetracycline, lead toxicity and nitrofurantoin are held responsible. Whereas in infection, Guillain-Barré syndrome, lateral sinus thrombosis and roseola infantum are held responsible. In metabolic, there are hypervitaminosis of vitamin A, then vitamin A deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, obesity, galactosemia, hypocalcemia, and hypoparathyroidism are held responsible. In hematological, polycythemia, iron deficiency anemia, and Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome and hemolytic anemia are held responsible. In the vascular one, the obstruction to intracranial venous drainage and superior vena cava obstruction are found to be important. And lastly, the traumatic. In traumatic one, minor head injury are sometimes associated with raised intracranial tension. Out of all these etiology, the most commonly encountered etiologies are vitamin A deficiency, obesity, minor head injury, and the drugs that we have mentioned, that is nalidixic acid, tetracyclic acid, steroid, lead toxicity and nitrofurantoin. Now the clinical feature of pseudotumor cerebri. Well, the patient usually come with headache, vomiting, diplopia and irritability, which may or may not be acute and is equally found in both male and female. The sign: the patient is conscious, alert and cooperative, but patient have an anterior fontanelle which will be full in infant. Then the McQueen sign or crackpot sign will be found positive. What is this thing? Well, this is a test to assess the pseudotumor cerebri. What is done in this test? Tapping or percussion is done on the skull near the junction of frontal, parietal and temporal bone, which if produce hyperresonance is indicative of hydrocephalus or abscess in brain. Now the thirdly, the sixth cranial nerve palsy, that is abducens nerve palsy, is found. What happened with this nerve palsy is that patient unable to focus, as the eye do not focus on same object at a time. hence the stereoscopic vision is jeopardized. And lastly, the obesity is invariably present in the in the patient with pseudotumor cerebri. And on ophthalmological examination, as we have mentioned in the symptom, that papilloedema will be present with enlargement of blind spot, and early optic nerve atrophy may be also be found. So these are the symptoms and sign of pseudotumor cerebri. Now the investigation. In investigation, the pseudotumor cerebri is actually a diagnosis of exclusion. It is to be differentiated from infection and inflammatory disease of brain and encephalopathy of toxic and metabolic nature. The different investigations that are required are lumbar puncture and CSF study. Lumbar puncture revealed a raised pressure, normal CSF content and chemistry, and protein content is usually low. X-ray of the skull show a separation of suture and erosion of dorsum silla. The CT scan with contrast enhancement should be done to exclude the other causes. It should also show the small ventricular size and obliteration of normal sulcal marking due to the increased cerebral volume. And EEG, we find the excessive slow wave activity of theta range, which occasionally paroxysmal burst or high voltage slowing. So what we have found in the investigation, once again we are recapitulating. There is a lumbar puncture and CSF study in which we find that only the pressure of the CSF is raised, but with normal physiological and biochemical component. And in X-ray of the skull, we see that there is a separation of suture and erosion of dorsum silla. In CT scan, we have found that there is a small ventricular obstruction and obliteration of normal sulcal marking, but the ventricular size is overall small. And EEG, what we have found? We have found a slow wave activity of theta range with occasional paroxysmal burst of high voltage slowing. Now the treatment. The treatment of pseudotumor cerebri is largely symptomatic, because the exact reason behind the pseudotumor cerebri is often not known. But the good thing is that most of the time pseudotumor cerebri is self-limiting. So the symptomatic treatment is proved to be sufficient. The thing that we do is to try to identify and treat the underlying cause, which is rarely found. Then we try to relieve the neurological symptom and avoid the permanent visual loss due to optic atrophy. The thing that we do to prevent the optic atrophy from the papilloedema is that we do the lumbar puncture, which act as a both diagnostic and therapeutic. Then we can use acetazolamide with a dose of 10 mg per kg per day along with lumbar puncture or after the lumbar puncture, which significantly reduce the raised intracranial tension. And if the symptom reappear, repeat the lumbar puncture may be done. And even if the RICT persists, dexamethasone may be tried with some variable success. If the above treatment fail, and if the optic atrophy is supervene, in that case, to save the vision of the eye, to save the vision of the patient, we do lumboperitoneal shunt or optic nerve sheath fenestration to relieve the excessive intracranial tension. And visual monitoring is done during the follow-up period. Usually the prognosis of pseudotumor cerebri is good, so there is not much reason to worry. So these are the things that we came to know about the pseudotumor cerebri. With this, we concluded our discussion on pseudotumor cerebri. Hopefully we have been benefited.